Hey guys, welcome back to NextGen. This video is a continuation to Hardware Episode 1, beginning the season Part 1. So if you haven't watched that, then click here to watch that before coming back to this. In the last video, we went over what you need for a successful kickoff. And this will be about what you do during kickoff. We will break this down into two essential parts, strategy and design. Before you get into designing your robot, you will want to decide on your game strategy. This will in no way be final, as optimal game strategies often shift over the course of the season, but it's always good to have a baseline when designing your robot. We usually start off this section of kickoff by sitting around a TV or computer and watching the game video 2 or 3 times to make sure we understand the game and the basics of the rules. From there, we will get the scoring sheet, which can usually be found at the end of Game Manual 2, and decide on which points we want to go for during auto, teleop, and endgame. When doing this, there are a few important things to keep in mind. For one, you don't necessarily always want to go for the items which will score you the most points. Think not only about what scores you the most, but what you can do most accurately, reliably, and in the least amount of time. For example, in the FTC game Power Play, it may at first be tempting to go for a circuit every match, winning your team 20 points, but that time can often be better and more reliably spent trying to own more junctions, 3 points apiece, but 3 points which can add up and aren't as easy to lose as the circuit, which only requires 1 disruption from the opposing alliance to lose. For another, think about possible penalties whenever you are strategizing. Be sure that none of your ideas bring you close to gaining penalties. For this, it is extremely helpful to have a few people with the Game Manual Part 2 open on their computers to clarify any doubts your team may have. Finally, anticipate other robots' movements. What is something that other teams will likely be going for? How is that likely to affect what you will be doing on the field? What will you do if a team disconnects at that essential area? You may not have answers to all of these quite yet, as it is truly hard to know how a match will go down until it actually happens, but they are all good questions to think about. As you are going through this process, be sure to mark down the points you absolutely want to go for, highest priority. Those you would like to go for but can sacrifice in certain situations, medium priority, and those which you think are distractions and are not generally worth spending time over, lowest priority. This will serve as the baseline when designing your robot, as it will tell you what motions your robot will have to do and what mechanisms you may need. At this point, your team is likely pretty hungry. Remember that pineapple and pizza we talked about in the last video? Consume. Are you done being hungry? Good. Now I want to go into the second portion of the video, design. For this section, we're going to briefly touch, but not fully cover certain topics due to the time constraint of this video. But rest assured that we will be posting more in-depth tutorials into these topics later down the road, so stay tuned. The first thing to do when designing the robot is to decide on what subsystems you will need. A subsystem is basically a smaller part of the robot designed to accomplish a certain task. Dividing your robot into subsystems can greatly aid in the design process, as breaking things down into smaller pieces always makes it easier to look at the details, and can allow you to split up the design of individual parts to different people. For most games, you will likely need a drivetrain, an intake, and an outtake, or a manipulator of some kind, and a transfer system and or lift. For some games, you may need 1 or 2 extra manipulators for smaller tasks. We will be posting videos later down the road going more into what each of these are and different variations of them. But to put it shortly, the drivetrain is what the robot drives on. The intake intakes game elements. The outtake outputs game elements. The whole naming convention on outtakes is kind of annoying, so just do what I do and try to ignore it. And the manipulators manipulate or move game elements, usually without any kind of intake or outtake. You will want to decide on what variation of each of the necessary subsystems you will use. And for this, we recommend using a decision matrix. A decision matrix is a tool to allow you to weigh the pros and cons of different ideas by applying certain categories through which to compare ideas and then ranking each based on their viability. Be on the lookout for a tutorial dedicated to decision matrices coming soon to a YouTube near you. Now that you've figured out what subsystems you need, you will need to figure out what your overall robot will look like. For this, we recommend using a technique called blocking. This is also something we will be going more into depth on in another video. But basically, it just involves drawing out the basic locations of where everything will go and how it will fit together. If used well, blocking can make for very compact and well-packaged robots. Finally, you will need to come up with a plan to design and build your robot. For us, this usually takes the form of deciding who will CAD what and when the CAD will be due. A week to 2 weeks should usually be a good amount of time to get an entire CAD done. Depending on your team's abilities with CAD and the complexity of your design, stay posted for a video about your CAD process, also coming soon. Congratulations! You just got through the brunt of your kickoff. At this point, your team is probably burnt out, so take the rest of the day off. We usually spend the rest of our day team bonding. Pool parties, sleepovers, board games, video games, duct tape, super glue, flex tape, concrete, and a dinner are all good options for this, or whatever your team enjoys / generally adheres to. Good luck on your season to come, and that's all for us now. Peace out.